Hello and welcome to Newsphere. Today we are going to create a watercolor hat. You will need white paper, watercolors, paintbrush, yarn of any color, liquid glue, water, scissors, white crayon, and a pencil. Here is what we will be making today. Look at how wonderful our white crayon showed up and our wonderful yarn Pom Pom looks on our watercolor hat. Let's get started. We're going to start by drawing the left side of the hat. We're going to draw a curved line from about right here to about right here. We're going to go up and curve. That is our left side. Now, at the top, we're going to draw a circle, but we're not going to close that circle. We're going to curve out, around, and back in. It could even be an oval shape like this one is. Circle or oval shape. Now, we're going to go back down. Curve down just like we did on the left side. And make sure the left and right are pretty even. Now we're going to draw the bottom part of our hat. This is the part that would stay on your head and be close to your ears. So we're going to curve out and go straight across and then curve back in. Curve out, straight across, curve back in. Now you should have a hat. Now you can close this if you want. See how mine was kind of closed? There's no problem with that. Either or, open or closed. So now's where our white crayon comes in. Our white crayon we are going to use to make lots and lots and lots of designs on our hat. You won't be able to see the design at first, and that's the fun part. Your secret design will show up later. Here are some different types of lines you could make on your hat. You could make wavy lines, chevron or zigzag lines, swirl loops, curves, or even this cool one called the walk around. You could make straight horizontal lines, parallel lines, straight angle lines, even perpendicular, or straight and vertical, up and down. You could do dashed or dotted, this cool castle one where it looks like you have almost squares, a thin line like this one, thick or very thick, even spiral lines. You could also draw smiley faces or snowflakes, but here are some wonderful different types of lines that you can make. Okay, so now we're going to take that white crayon and make whatever kind of design you want. Snowflakes, swirls, thick lines, curvy lines, wavy lines. You decide. Cover your whole hat with different types of lines. Right now, you can't see it very well, but soon you will. Once you have designed your hat with your white crayon from bottom to top, you can design this circle at the top, but eventually that will be covered with a pom-pom, so you don't have to. Now that we have our entire hat designed with our white crayon, we will need our watercolors, our paintbrush, and our water. You will want to make sure you use a good bit of coloring so that you can see your design pop really well. You can make your hat one color, two colors, or even more. I'm going to start with blue. You don't need a whole lot of water on your brush, but you will need to make sure your watercolor is very wet, like this. Okay, I'm going to start at the bottom, and I can brush it left to right, or I can go up and down a little. But look at where I drew with my white crayon. As I put coloring over it with my watercolors, the design shows up. It's like a secret message. You may even get to part of your hat and forget that you did some of it. You might see a squiggly line that you forgot you've done. Now I'm probably going to change my color off and on to make my hat extra colorful. So now that I've done a lot of blue, I'm going to go ahead and change to purple. Now remember, make sure your watercolor palette has lots of water on the color you're using. Otherwise, you won't get a lot of color onto your hat. And you can keep going from bottom to top, top to bottom, until your whole hat is colored. And your secret design will show up. You could also try this project with markers. It won't work well with other paints, but you could try and experiment and see what happens. With thicker paint, you may not be able to see your wonderful design. You can go outside of the lines because later we will cut it out and it won't matter. I'm going to switch colors again. I think I'll go to another shade of blue. Now this may take a while, so feel free to pause your video and come back once your hat is completely covered. I'm making some kind of pattern with my colors. Different shades of blue and purple, but I'm going back and forth between purple and blue. If you see some parts that are a little bit light colored, you can always add more paint to those areas. Spread it around so that you don't miss any of the wonderful white crayon design you made. Be sure to paint every piece, and remember, you can go outside the lines because later we're going to cut it out. Alright, now my hat is completely covered, but it's a little wet. If you want to use a paper towel, you can lay it flat on your hat. You don't want to move your towel around, but you can tap it and press very gently to get extra coloring, extra water off, but it will also leave a really neat design on parts of your hat to show texture. Let's see. You don't want to leave it on too long. Ooh, look at that design. Look closely and you'll see the spots and design and texture from my paper towel. Now we're going to set our hat aside so that we can work on our pom-pom. Your hat will need to dry for a while anyways, so you can make a pom-pom on your own with yarn and scissors. It will look something like this. If you don't want to make your own pom-pom, that is fine. You could use pom-poms from the store like this. If you want to make your own pom-pom, You will first need to use any kind of yarn you want. The first step is to cut about 6 inches of yarn. And we're going to set that piece aside for later. Now, your fingers are going to be very useful for this project. Unravel a good bit of yarn before we get started. Okay, now I'm going to find the end of my yarn, hold it to my fingers with my thumb, and I'm going to either use 3 fingers or 2. 3 will make a larger pom-pom, and I'm going to wrap it around 5 times. 3, 4, 5. Now I don't have to hold it with my thumb. We're going to wrap around our fingers a lot. Let's start by counting to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now if we use that, our pom-pom's going to be very tiny. We're going to go ahead and unravel some more yarn and count to 10 again. All right, here we go. Counting to 10 one more time. You see, your fingers might get tight, but that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now that will make a pretty good sized pom-pom, but I think we should do about 10 more. So I'm going to unravel some more yarn and count to 10 a third time. All right, counting now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Careful it doesn't fall off your fingers. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That should be a pretty good sized pom-pom. Now you want to cut off maybe another 6 inches or so. I'm going to take this that I cut off and tuck it in while I take my yarn off my fingers. Then I'm going to tuck it in 1 to 2 more times. This will keep your puff of yarn together. That way it doesn't come unraveled. There we go. We'll cut that off later. Now take your 6-inch piece of yarn and put your puff on top of it. You're going to tie it at least twice all the way around. 1, 2. Now it's nice and tight and you can see 2 different sides. It's almost like a butterfly. We're going to cut all the loops. This is one loop, but you can stick your scissors all the way through and cut all of one side at once. Be sure not to cut the middle. That's what keeps your pom-pom together. I'm cutting the next side and see some are a little shorter, so I'm gonna pull my scissors through again and cut. Here's 2 more. All right, now you can cut anything that's longer. Trim your pom-pom just a little bit. Don't trim it too much or you'll cut off all the puff. Now you can fluff up your pom-pom. So I'm going to go ahead and cut around my black line. I'm going to be very careful and curve where I need to. Now remember, this is why it was okay to go outside the lines. Because now you're never going to know that you painted across those lines. If your hat is still wet, you can pause the video and come back. As we're cutting, we need to be careful not to cut into the hat like this. If we cut into the hat, then part of our design won't be there. Our hat will be shaped very differently. Sometimes when we're cutting, curves can be hard. But practice, practice, practice so that you can do your best. Wonderful. Now I have an awesome hat. My pom-pom shouldn't go here. That'd be goofy, unless I had multiple. Let's go ahead and put our pom-pom up at the top, where we had our little circle. That way your pom-pom sticks. But any more than that would be way too much. Then take your pom-pom, maybe if you see a flat spot, you can use that and stick it at the top. Count to 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now your hat is complete. Be careful with your pom-pom though. It will take your glue a few minutes to dry. Here's a question for you. If this was a real hat, would you wear it? Another question, where would you wear this hat? Would you wear this hat at the beach? Probably not. Would you wear this hat when you're skiing? Probably. This is a hat for cold times. I would definitely wear my hat if it was real. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you had a great time. Goodbye.